everyone. This is Erwin Lazar, President and Principal Analyst at Metrigy, and welcome to this episode of the Metrigy MetriSight. I'm excited to be joined for this episode by David Ball, Product Marketing Manager from Zoom, to talk about Zoom Huddles. Zoom Huddles are Zoom's video-enabled virtual co-working spaces designed to foster inclusive discussions for distributed and hybrid teams. In this episode, we're going to hear from David and his thoughts on the challenges that virtual and hybrid teams are facing and how Zoom Huddles can help meet the needs of that virtual and hybrid work group. So David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Erwin, thank you so much. Very happy to be here.
So let's start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in the collaboration industry, and how long have you been at Zoom?
Yeah, good question. So I've been in totality at Zoom for a little over 4 years. I feel very lucky with my Zoom journey, as I started as an intern in 2019, which, as you can imagine, was a very exciting time to be at Zoom. We had just gone public, seeing a lot of great traction. And then obviously in 2020, there was quite a big boom. Prior to Zoom, I spent a little bit of time at Oracle, so not in the collaboration space, but wanted to kind of stay in the tech software space. And since starting as an intern in 2019, obviously had the chance to see the large growth that we've experienced here at Zoom from the meetings product and then expanding across the entire platform. And so it's been a very interesting, innovative, fun time to be at Zoom over the last few years as we've continued to shape and ship new products like Zoom Huddles, which I'm here to talk to you about today.
Excellent. And I know that we've certainly seen the build out of the Zoom platform. It's not obviously not just about meetings anymore. And so I think I first heard about Huddles at an analyst event prior to Zoomtopia last year. And of course, you talked about it at Zoomtopia. So tell us a little bit about Huddles. What problem are you trying to solve with the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So the challenge that we're really focusing on with Zoom Huddles is this notion of team connectivity. And I think we can all relate to this in a hybrid world, but specifically we found, and some of the research that we've done, that over 90% of knowledge workers, in this case we surveyed knowledge workers, said that team connection is something that's very important to them. But 55% of those same knowledge workers said that finding team connectivity is super difficult when working remotely or hybrid. So thinking about team connectivity, obviously that's a big category. What we really wanted to replicate with Zoom Huddles is how can we recreate those kind of serendipitous, those ad hoc, those creative interactions that happen in the office, where we have access to one another, where we can feel the creative juices flowing, but making sure that we're bringing that to distributed and hybrid teams. And frankly, before we announced this product, we saw some of our customers almost using Zoom meetings in a way to meet this need. We'd see remote teams setting up an always-on Zoom meeting that they'd kind of pop in and out of to have an audio or video line to their teammates, to employees. And so we thought, why not take a more purpose-driven approach to solve for this team connection, which I think we all feel in the hybrid world, but then have a real product-driven, purpose-driven solution to this problem.
And our research backs up what you said. We published a study earlier this year of about 440 end user organizations. And we asked them, what's the biggest challenge you face with supporting hybrid workers? And, it was the third time we did the studies, or asked that question, I should say, since the start of the pandemic. And, early on in the pandemic, it was voice quality, video quality, internet related issues. This time around, it was connectivity and culture and social bonding among employees. So what have you seen so far from how Huddles is addressing that need for, like you mentioned, the informal communication and collaboration and not just scheduled meetings?
Yeah, and we've seen a lot and we've learned a lot. And we'll talk about how we're kind of bringing this product to market as we've taken a more purpose-driven approach of seeking customer feedback and understanding those use cases. But I think knowing that having a sense of belonging and team connection is so important to us. What we're seeing some of our users use Zoom Huddles to solve this is things like having predictability on where you can find some of your teammates. So, for example, if you're in an office, that I sit next to Jeff. If I have a question, I can go find him. When we're remote or hybrid, it's harder to schedule those meetings or have those ad hoc interactions. So understanding that, hey, the product team, they like to hang out in the product huddle on Wednesdays. So having some predictability around where I can find someone, and having access to them to have those conversations in the moment, is super important. I think another fun one that we're seeing around this team connectivity and sense of belonging is recently at the Zoom office, we've set up, in San Jose, kind of a lunchroom portal that links with Zoom Huddles. And there's some exciting stuff coming on the roadmap with Zoom Rooms and Huddles support, but allowing myself in San Diego to kind of sit at lunch with those that are in San Jose and feel like, the conversations that happen outside of the conference room, I can still be a part of. And so that's unlocked a really interesting use case as well, on kind of the hardware side to say, how can we infuse remote, hybrid, virtual employees into the physical office space? That's just one example, that we're excited about as well.
Are you seeing any use of huddles as a way of creating communities of interest that might allow for people to get together and talk about, I don't know, cooking or working out or travel or things kind of outside work that you have that opportunity to talk to people about, around the lunch table, like your example?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a Zoomy Pets huddle, almost an elevated experience of some of the chat channels that exist. We talked about, during March Madness a few months ago is when we were starting to roll this out internally, having a basketball or other sports. There's a film huddle. So creating dialogue around topics that people really care about has been kind of a nice, residual effect. I think we've really seen a shift in our focusing on the team connection and team collaboration and seeing blossom, use cases in that area. But having just those fun conversations, I think something many of us miss, and so it's been exciting to see those emerge as well.
Yeah, definitely a better means of having those kind of engagement than sending an email, especially when the
Yeah,
written word can be so interpreted wrongly. So
exactly.
what's your biggest surprise? As you talk to customers and see how they've used it, or you're used to the tool internally?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when we set out to solve this challenge of connectivity, serendipity, we kind of thought about it as an org wide, as a company wide, way of thinking. Meaning, what if we create or instruct customers to create large huddles, office wide huddles, and just kind of have folks stumble into each other. And again, these huddles are persistent, kind of always on co-working spaces that you can come in and out of. I think what we found that's been interesting is it's been the smaller team-based engagements that have been a lot more successful. So having teams say, hey, I really want to spend the majority of my time in a huddle working side by side, those who I know I'm going to have a question for, or I'm going to go to this specific, the IT support huddle to get specific help, from a support agent. So when we originally were thinking about how to roll this out at Zoom, it was much more broad. Let's all sit in a virtual office and kind of facilitate discussion there. But the reality is, most people really want to interact with those that they're most closely working with, and then have the option, if they'd like, to go bump into those that they don't see as much. So really kind of focusing more on those team-based interactions and project-based interactions has been where we see a lot of our users at larger organizations see success.
Makes sense. So you alluded to roadmap efforts to work Huddles into the rest of the Zoom portfolio. Is there anything you can share publicly at this point, or do we have to wait till Zoomtopia in October to get the details?
Yeah, great question. I'll tease out a few things, but always going to plug Zoomtopia. Lots of good product innovation coming there. As far as how Huddles will continue to work with the rest of the Zoom platform, what we're learning is that the users want to have help in understanding when to use Huddles, to kind of have tips as to why it might be helpful for them to have, to be in Huddles. So we're tackling that in a number of ways with things like notifications, things like easier discoverability to know the huddles that are most relevant to you. but also intertwining them more strongly within our Zoom platform. So things like Zoom Team Chat. You'll see in coming months tighter integrations within Zoom Team Chat. Right now, each huddle links to a Team Chat channel, so you can see who in the channel is in the huddle, chats all funnel through there. But being able to spin a huddle up from a Team Chat channel is something that we're seeing a lot of interest from. Also, being able to easily launch a Zoom meeting from a huddle, because sometimes you are having kind of that more serendipitous conversation and you realize, hey, we should probably take this into a conference room and have a meeting. Being able to quickly elevate that to a meeting is something we're seeing a lot. On top of that, we're bringing more collaboration tools into the huddle experience, not trying to replicate everything that exists in a meeting, but bringing things like Zoom Whiteboard into a huddle is something that we're seeing interest in. So there's a core product element, but then there's also a notification, a discoverability element that's really compelling to showcase why would I want to join a huddle. And it largely in part is who's in there, why would I want to interact with those folks in a huddle.
I imagine there's a natural synergy with spaces too, where if I go in and reserve a part of a workspace for a project team, that could be visible then into a huddle.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I mentioned, Zoom Rooms in some of our hardware projects very much on the roadmap, and the product teams do an excellent job partnering with Zoom Rooms to make sure that there is that natural integration as well.
Are there any vertical or industry specific use cases that you're looking at around huddles, like in education or emergency response or things like that?
There have certainly been some cool use cases that have surprised me personally. One that immediately comes to mind that we've actually seen play out multiple times is in the FinServe category. We've seen a couple beta testers in financial services who are on a smaller group kind of replicating a trade floor like scenario. Obviously, there's tools to kind of solve this particular use case, but what we see is, hey, I want for some teams to have an always on video and audio communication channel. And this is a way that we have our teams sit in a huddle all day and have that quick responsive nature and way of communication. So FinServe has been super interesting. Support and kind of the IT help desk use case has been one that we've seen pop up over and over. That's been really interesting. Again, if you're in a physical office, you often know where's the IT team sitting. If I run into a challenge, where can I get help? There's great virtual tools to do that. Now we're kind of bringing some of those into Zoom huddles as well. On the EDU side, we're seeing a lot of interest as well on things like drop-in office hours, kind of the accessibility and access, I should say, to either other students. A lot of those are use cases that are more being beta tested, but excited to see them really emerging as our customers have been passionate about testing.
Very cool. So I'm going to jump around a little bit on some of the questions that we had talked about before the session, but AI, generative AI, that's top of mind or top topic in almost every discussion I have now. How do you see generative AI playing into the huddle space?
Yeah, generative AI is, as you know, Erwin, and as we've talked about, a core pillar of everything that we're doing here across the platform at Zoom. So what I would say to top line is stay tuned for some of the announcements coming at Zoomtopia, because a lot of what we're pulling through from a generative AI standpoint will be cross-platform, looking to integrate into huddles as well. From a AI, non-generative AI standpoint, there's some exciting things that the team is working on. Obviously, we have existing AI functionality within Huddles, virtual background, things like noise suppression. But I think there's also some really great opportunities that I've talked to the product team around kind of AV visual support, recognition if you're sitting in a huddle, around video and audio. We do have some of our free trial features like Team Chat Compose, which uses generative AI to respond to or generate chat messages. Because huddles are connected to a Team Chat channel, you can actually use those Team Chat Compose features to draft messages in a huddle or kind of have a quick response. So I'd say the top line is that a lot of the innovation that we're going to be announcing and putting through across the Zoom platform will also be pulled through into Zoom Huddles, which we're super excited about. So stay tuned for more of those details.
Very cool. So if somebody's interested in trying out Huddles, where do they go? What should be their next step?
Yeah, absolutely. We right now are in kind of early access is what we're calling. And we've taken a more focused approach where we're really working with customers. Our product team is excellent in meeting with customers and understanding their use case to kind of tailor our roadmap for them. So any customer now can join the early access list. If you go to the Zoom Huddles product page, which I'm sure we can link, you will find a put me on the list kind of option. We regularly go through that list. We work and reach out to customers that are on that list to help get them onboarded to understand their use cases. So if you're listening to this, please feel free to go to the Zoom Huddles webpage, put yourself on the list, and know that we'll be reaching out to you to help get you onboarded.
Will there be an additional cost for Huddles for companies that are interested in deploying it?
Right now, no additional cost. As we continue to scale up, there will continue to be a pretty robust trial period. And then in many cases, once there's been enough testing, we'll share more about pricing and packaging. But the key here is really to integrate Zoom Huddles into the tools that you're already using, bringing some of that experience, that UI that users know and love from Zoom into Zoom Huddles with a little bit of a twist. And so as far as the immediate feature goes, there's no cost associated with Zoom Huddles. We're allowing all to come on via free trial and beta.
Awesome. So what excites you over the next year as you kind of think about where the product's going and where you want to take it?
A lot excites me. We really see Zoom Huddles as being a huge tool kind of in this modern workforce for hybrid collaboration. I think we've talked about in the near term roadmap, which I'm excited about, is creating almost a sense of virality within Zoom Huddles. You know, Huddles is such a powerful product with the network effect. When I see that my teammates are in a huddle, it makes me want to go in and join in on conversation. So using some of those tools in the product to expose to me as a user, hey, this would be a good opportunity to use a huddle, or look, your manager is in a huddle answering questions. So I think there's a level of the engagement element. But if we look even bigger, I think I'm excited about Zoom Huddles as creating that portal between in-office employees, remote employees, hybrid employees, providing a little bit more as it relates to the meetings lifecycle. Again, we see that Huddles can be an opportunity to sometimes cut back on meeting time, get a quick answer to a question without scheduling a meeting, but also it complements meetings well. Where are you going to kind of do the debrief of a meeting? Zoom Huddles. Where are you looking to elevate a lively conversation in a chat channel? Zoom Huddles. So really kind of creating this easy way to bridge gaps in hybrid and in-person employees is where I think this tool could be extremely powerful.
Cool. And I assume you're also looking at synergies with the WorkVivo, that product that's been recently acquired.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that because employee experience as a whole, as you can see, is a place that we're really excited about at Zoom. It's a place that we're investing. And so great opportunities for crossover with Zoom Huddles and WorkVivo to really enhance the full employee experience.
Great. So I'm very excited to. I'm going to attend Zoomtopia this year. Excited to hear what's next and what you'll share publicly at the event. Where else can people go if they're interested in more information, or they'd like to follow up with you directly after they listen to our broadcast?
I will always invite any messages. David Ball, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Again, the product page has some great resources at Zoom Huddles. I'll share, Erwin, that link with you. There's also some support articles that we have, a video just with some rough overview. So as I mentioned at the top of our interview, because this is such a cutting edge, interesting product that we've seen a lot of good feedback, we welcome all of the discussion to understand what are the use cases that you're looking for, what are you trying to solve. And I'd be happy to answer any more questions personally But if not, the product page and some of those support articles are a great resource.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, David. Very excited to chat with you and to learn a little bit more about Huddles. It's definitely a product that we see a significant opportunity to address those concerns we talked about at the beginning of the discussion around engagement and building culture and community for people that work in a hybrid environment. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of the MetriSight. I'd like to again thank David for joining us. If you're interested in more information about Zoom or Zoom Huddles, please go to the Zoom website at zoom.us. If you like this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And remember that we publish the MetriSight on a bi-weekly basis. So be sure to check out our archives and keep your eyes and ears out for future episodes. Thank you so much for joining us.